Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and my knitting podcast series. It is wonderful to have you here with me today. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Samantha and I am the knitter and knitwear designer, podcaster, all those fun things behind the account The Strikkechick. So it's been a little bit since I checked in with you guys for a normal podcast episode. I was on vacation. I live in the Arctic Circle of Norway, for those who are new here, and we don't really have much of a spring in the Arctic Circle. It's still very snowy. I guess our definition of spring is like the sun comes out for longer. We have 24 hours of darkness in the winter, 24 hours of sunlight in the summer. So the spring is kind of that transitional turning point for us where we start getting more sun than darkness. But other than that, we don't really have much in the way of flowers or, what grass, greenery, any kind of. So usually in the spring, I like to take a little trip somewhere sunny, somewhere warm. So I went back to the States, to the suburbs of DC, where I come from. Just got to spend some time with my family for the last time before my parents become grandparents. So that was a bit of a fun trip for me. And I got a haircut, so I look different than last time. I am back in Tromsø. I am back to filming, and I hope to keep up fairly regular podcasts until the baby arrives. So let's just get right into it, because I have been knitting a lot. I don't know if you can see my basket in the corner over here, but it is chock full of things that I want to tell you guys about. But we will start with what I'm wearing, which is my soldag sweater. It was my first ever knitting design, actually. It was inspired by and named after the day when the sun comes over the horizon for the first time following mørketida, or the dark time, which is that period of 24-hour darkness in the winter. And my initial design for the soldag sweater is knit from the bottom up, in 2 strands of yarn, a DK weight, and then a lace weight mohair. It's knit separately and seamed together. And now that I've, grown a little bit as a knitwear designer over the past 2 years, I wanted to revisit the soldag sweater because it's still one of my most worn, most loved pieces. And I wanted to design a new construction for it. So everything about the soldag sweater is the same. It has the same sizes, it has the same panels, the same fit, except it is knit from the top down in a drop shoulder construction, and it is knit seamlessly, which is a more modern, format of putting a sweater together than the more traditional Aran fisherman shirt type format that I used my first go around. So then also this sample is knit in 1 strand of yarn instead of 2. It's knit in Drops Air in the shade Off-White, because I thought that I would give it a go knitting with 1 strand, because I have recommended that as a potential option in the original pattern. And I really love this. I think the yarn is really nice, really soft. It has a bit of a split. I'll put some photos up so you can see maybe just the newer version, even though there's a lot of photos out there with the older one, but with this specifically, there's a bit of a slit at the bottom, so it still fits me even though I'm 27 weeks pregnant now. I really, really like it. It's something I'll keep wearing for a long time. It's very soft on my skin, and it's very lightweight too, so we have a little bit of I think I talked in my last podcast video, or maybe it was I did a yarn review. The last video I filmed, I talked about how it was getting a little bit too warm for sweaters inside in the Arctic Circle. And that's because we live in an apartment that has a lot of windows, so it creates kind of a greenhouse-ish effect, right? Where you get a lot of sunlight into your home and it heats it up. But this is very breathable, very light, very nice to wear. I can still wear it and I can talk to you, even though I'm a little out of breath and I've got my water next to me, the huge Stanley mug for breaks when I need it. But yeah, This is the sole lug sweater, and the testers, so I had test knitters for the top-down version, and they just finished up last week. They have knit some beautiful, beautiful sweaters that I cannot wait to share with you guys. I think by the time this video comes out, I think the release will be a little bit afterwards. I haven't set a solid date for it yet, but I am very excited to get the pattern out there into the world. And just to have an update on my first ever knitwear design that I think is still so nice and wears so well. So yeah, that is what I am wearing today, and moving on to my finished objects that I have to show you. So I only have 2 of these, and they're both for baby. This one I showed you guys on the podcast last time. This is the Malan Sweater Baby by Petite Knit. I knit it in the size, I think it's either 9 to 12 months or just 12 months. I remember 12 months being like a marking point in the size that I picked. So this is the 12-month size, I'll just call it that. But I have a Ravelry page. So I've been getting better about using my Ravelry. So I have like a Ravelry group now, or multiple Ravelry groups. I have one for all my designs. So like when I make projects, or when I make designs, I make a project page for each design, and then I make a design page for it. And I have my project pages in a category that says my designs, and then I have all my baby knits together in a tab that says baby knits. So this is one of those, and I will link the Ravelry page if you're interested and you want to know more about my Malan Sweater Baby. I knit this in 2 strands of Drops Alpaca, which I had left over from 2 projects of mine that I knit before. One was a cardigan and one was a sweater. And it's the colorways, I want to say nougat and light nougat or brown, or the darker one I think is called just brown. And the light color is called light nougat, I want to say. And I ran into a bit of a hitch with this sweater. The last episode I showed you in the podcast, I had run out of the light brown yarn. So I was waiting for another skein of it to be delivered from, I think it was Rito Hobby was the website I ordered from. So I finally got that yarn, and I finished this up, and I blocked it, wove in the ends, and now it's just waiting for baby girl and waiting for her to be big enough so she can wear this sweater. I'm considering maybe doing some embroidery on the front. I have some embroidery floss, and I have been interested in picking up embroidery on knitting, and I think a children's sweater would be such a cute little place to start. So if you have any recommendations for embroidery on sweaters, please send them my way. I will definitely be looking into it. I know that there is a Norwegian knitwear designer. Her name is, I think it's Plistre Strick or something, and she does a lot of embroidery, and she has a whole book called Embroidery on Knitwear, but it's in Norwegian. I can read Norwegian, but I'm not as comfortable in it as I am in English. So I think as a complete beginner in embroidery, I would prefer to start out with something in English. So I'll be looking around for that. But if you have any recommendations, especially for very beginner embroiderers, please send them my way. The construction for this actually, it's a top-down baby sweater, so there's no shaping on this because I guess it's so small, it's for a baby. But it's knit on, I think it's 4.5 millimeter needles is what I met gauge with, so I knit using 4.5 millimeter needles. And baby sleeves, they're like the quickest thing ever, you guys, to knit. I'm so used to, like, on a chunky sweater, for me, like a sleeve will take me at least 2 days, and I got these done in like half a day, these little tiny little baby sleeves. So yeah, that was, I mean, obviously baby knits work up so quick, and this is just so adorable. And I'm so excited for her to wear this. So it's just sitting in the wardrobe waiting for her now. But yeah, I really enjoyed knitting the Malan Sweater Baby. And then my next finished object is another, these are all baby knits, like I said. This one I didn't show you when it was a work in progress, but Kevin and I went in for it. You don't actually, if you're if you're an expecting mom under the age of 35 in Norway, you don't get the NIPT, which is the non-invasive prenatal testing, I believe. They don't offer that to you in the Norwegian healthcare system. So you can get it private if you want, but that's how a lot of people find out the gender of the baby, at around 12 weeks. So what they do for us who are not yet 35 is we find out the gender, if we want to, on the 20-week scan. And that's what Kevin and I did. And we found out that we were having a little girl. So the day that I found out that we were having a girl, I went on my little Knitting for Olive pattern rampage, just looking at all the cute, frilly, lacy, everything. And this was one of the first patterns that I put into my shopping cart. And I knit it up, and I decided I wanted it to be baby's coming home outfit. So this is the lace dress body by Knitting for Olive in the smallest size. It's supposed to be the 3-month size, but I don't know, it looks, this is my first kid, so I don't really know, but it looks really, really small. It looks like it could fit a newborn, maybe a bigger newborn, because we don't know how big she's going to be. But definitely with like a onesie over it, or not over it, a onesie under it or something. And yeah, I think it's just, there's so many beautiful, beautiful details. Like, this was a labor of love. Little buttons on the, I don't know if you can see them, but I'll put some photos up as well. But I knit this in Drops Flora in the shade green that I had in my stash. I had 2 skeins of this, and I had initially bought this Drops Flora, and I was like, I'm going to make myself some socks. I still have yet to make a pair of socks. I've never knit socks. But that was my goal for these skeins. And then they just sat in my stash, and they waited, and they waited, and then I got pregnant. So I figured I have 2 skeins. I might as well make something for baby. So I did. And this was, I think that Knitting for Olive gets a lot of flack on Ravelry, their patterns, because I obviously, before I substitute yarns, I like to go to Ravelry and look through the project pages and see if anyone else has also used the same yarn and what they thought about it. Because for knits for myself, I'm fine. Like, I'll just swatch and I'll be like, oh, okay, that will fit fine. But for baby knits, I'm a little bit more cautious because I knit this up and I have no clue, about what the size of the human is that will fit into this. So I went on Ravelry and I saw that a couple other people had used Drops Flora, so I was like, okay, fine, that's an okay substitute. But there were a lot of people who were kind of talking about how complicated the pattern was and that it wasn't very well explained. I think that Knitting for Olive patterns are fairly intuitive and easy to read. That's just me. I think that there's a certain standard. If you look at Norwegian Danish patterns, they are much more kind of left up to interpretation. Like, it'll tell you decrease row, decrease this many stitches, but it won't tell you how to do it. And you just kind of have to use your best judgment and figure that out for yourself. But I've noticed that English patterns are really, really detailed. Sometimes to the point of you get bogged down in all the minutiae and it's hard to kind of, there's almost too much information in some of them. So I think maybe it was just an issue of translating not so much language to language, but in the amount of information required. And that's where a lot of people were running into issues. But because I like Norwegian patterns, I knit from them all the time, so I didn't think it was an issue. I think Knitting for Olive patterns are really, really nice, and this one is no exception. So yeah, this is the Knitting for Olive dress. No, Knitting for Olive dress. The lace dress body by Knitting for Olive in the smallest size. And I haven't blocked it yet, but I had some leftover yarn and I made her a little matching bonnet. This is the lace hat by Knitting for Olive, and it's the same. I know you can't see it because it's lace knitting and it's not blocked out, but it's the same motif as the lace dress body. So what a cute little outfit for baby, for her first ever knitwear outfit that she will wear in the middle of July, but it's fine because we live in the Arctic Circle. It's plenty cold, and I have heard, so like, one of the big things that I was looking at when I first found out that I was pregnant was, of course I was going to knit for baby. There was no question about it, but what's useful to knit for baby and what's not. And so I started watching a lot of YouTubers who had done kind of a roundup of all the things they had knit for their babies and what they wore and what they didn't wear. And the one thing that everyone seemed to have in common was hats. So apparently babies love hats. They wear a lot of hats because a lot of heat escapes from their little heads. And so I've just started making hats. I can make like one hat per work day almost because they're so tiny. So this one took me almost no time at all, and it was so much fun to knit. The only thing that kind of tripped me up a little bit on this was the ear flaps. So I don't know if you can see them, but this little I-cord, it comes down from these ear flaps. And that was it was hard to figure out what exactly the pattern wanted you to do with positioning, but once you kind of sat down and you just kind of turned off Netflix and thought about it more in detail, it made perfect sense. It was hard to get a hang of kind of on the first read through. But yeah, this is her. I'll block this. When I make hats, I want to like block multiple together. That way I'm not wasting. It feels like wasting water or wasting soap or something if I just like get out the whole blocking shebang for one hat. So I knit multiple and then I plan to block them together. But this is her coming home outfit, and I'm so proud of it, and I can't wait to see it on her. So this is all making me very, very excited for this summer, obviously. Yes, and my last finished object to show you is the baby bear bonnet. So this is a bonnet by Knitting for Olive again. It's just, I guess it's meant to be like, this is the front of the face here, and then this goes in the back. None of these ends are woven in because it's not blocked. Usually the way I do it, and I know that it's up to personal preference, but I like to block first and then weave in ends so that I don't weave my ends in too tightly and then they kind of get pulled at when I block. So it's knit from, where is it? I think if I'm not mistaken, you pick up stitches or you cast on from the ribbing, knit back and forth. I have to look at the construction again. I kind of forget. But it isn't actually knit in the round. I could have sworn it would be, but it isn't. But it's also a very, very nice, very straightforward pattern to follow. And it's got these little, hard to extricate from the loose ends of yarn here, but it's got these I-cord straps that you tie under baby's chin. And another note that I got, I think this was from watching Well Loved Knits videos, Bethany of Well Loved Knits, who has one child and she's now pregnant with her second. She made a note to tell us that she made her I-cord, or she would have, if she had known, made her I-cord ties longer than the pattern recommends for a lot of bonnets out there. And so that's what I did whenever I made I-cords, like for this and for the lace hat, because you don't want it to be like right up under their little chins, right? You want like a little bit of space, so it's not kind of suffocating them. So I thought it was better to err on the side of, okay, maybe the I-cord is a little bit longer than it's supposed to be, but then she'll have more room to breathe, and that's good. I prefer that to having too little space. And it's got these cute little, I think my bear ears, they're not as rounded as I hoped they would be. They're a little pointy because you do Kitchener stitch to finish them up over here. Yeah, they're a little bit pointy on the edge, but I don't know, I still think it's adorable. I think any baby garment with ears is really, really cute. I knit this in leftover drop sky in the shade Hazelnut. This was reclaimed. I had knit a sweater in drop sky in the colors, I think it was white or off-white and hazelnut. And I just didn't like the way that it fit on me. It was a test knit, so I finished up the test knit. I provided all my feedback, but then I frogged it. And this is in the reclaimed drop sky hazelnut. And I thought it was just such a good color for the baby bear bonnet, because it's baby bear brown. So yeah, that is the baby bear bonnet. And I just love knitting these little hats, so I will definitely be knitting more of them for baby in the future. Yes. Yeah, okay. So that is all my finished objects, and that was very baby-centric. But I do have other projects that are works in progress. They're just not as quick to come off the needles because they're not teeny tiny little hats and things. So this is one of the really big projects I have on my needles. I showed you this during my last podcast episode. I'm making this like saddle shoulder top-down cable sweater for my husband Kevin, and it's in drops Nord, and I'm using very, very small knitting needles to do this. I think they're very small. I think I'm getting a new perspective now of what small knitting needles are now that I'm doing baby garments. But these are on 3.5 millimeter needles. So yeah, it's taken a bit. And obviously because he's bigger than me, maybe not now that I'm pregnant, but generally he's bigger than I am. So it's a bigger sweater and it is longer than I would make for myself. I have finished the body now, basically. I just need to finish up this last row, and then I will switch over to smaller needles for the ribbing, and then I will do the sleeves. So yeah, we're about to be on Sleeve Island with this sweater, but I think it's coming along fairly okay. I did a little bit of, there's some short row shaping in here. Yeah, you've got more of a, Kevin doesn't really like sweaters that are all the way up on the neck like this, so I wanted to give him a little more space in the front, so I made it a little lower, so that when I do put the collar in, then it won't kind of choke him. It'll just maybe come up to here, it's just a good spot, I think, for a ribbed collar. And I think there will be 2x2 ribbing at the bottom. So this is inspired by, there's this designer brand that he showed me a couple years ago, Brunello Cucinelli, which are like really, really, really expensive sweaters, you guys. Like their sweaters will retail for like a couple €1,000 a pop. And he likes the style. It's very old money, kind of. So he pointed out this sweater that he liked, and he said that he wanted something similar. And I took it and I ran with it. So I changed some things about the construction. I made it saddle shoulder, for example. So you have this little cable that kind of runs from here down, which I think is a nice little detail. So yeah, I tried to put my own little twist on it, but I think that a lot of the details that I've used are pretty cohesive and they fit really well into the overall design, and I'm actually really excited to get this off my needles and see what it looks like on him, because it's hard knitting for other people, right? Maybe this isn't a problem you guys have, but for me, if I'm knitting for myself, I mean, at least pre-pregnancy, I had a really good idea of what my measurements were, so I could be like, oh, okay, this is perfect, this is going to fit with this much positive ease, and that's exactly what I wanted, and I know what that amount of positive ease looks like on my body, so we're all good. But when I'm knitting for other people, it's a little bit more difficult, because I did factor in some positive ease for him, but I don't know if it's maybe the right amount, and also it's cables, so I did swatch, obviously, but I won't know about the garment until it's fully blocked and he tries it on. So yeah, there's just a whole bunch of things up in the air, but I really, really hope that it fits him and he likes it. And I will be making a pattern out of it in the future. It will take a while. Everything is just taking a little bit longer because we're doing so much preparing for Little Miss. And work is going pretty hectic because in Norway you get a significant amount of time off with parental leave, which obviously I'm not complaining about. I understand that we are very, very lucky to have it. But at the same time, there's a lot of things that you have to prepare for because you're going to be out of work for months on end. So there's things to finish and, like kind of status, especially because I'm doing my PhD. So there's like different things that I have to basically be done with and milestones that I need to hit before I go on leave. So it's a busy time, all things considered. So a little bit of like, I've been maybe not so speedy at doing all my pattern stuff, but I will get to it, and I will, when I'm done with that, release a tester call for it. Okay, so this is another baby knit, but it's not actually a wearable. I started this with, all my baby knits almost are in leftover yarns. And I had some leftover Drops Lima and leftover Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino in my stash. And I wanted to make the Aften's Luftballon #1, or the Aften's Hot Air Balloon #1, which is just a cute little, it's like a hanging hot air balloon that I wanted to initially make into a mobile. But then I finished, there's like 8 of these little panels. This is it's hard to, it's a very, like, I used very thick yarn for it, so it's not very stretchy yet, so I need to block it. But yeah, it's going to be a little hot air balloon. I'll put a picture of it because right now it just looks like nothing. But it's a hot air balloon. It joins like this in the round, and you stuff it, and is this the top or the bottom? I think this is the bottom. There's a little basket on the bottom and the little I-cord that hangs on the top. And she gives you instructions for, like, if you want to put a music box in it, you can, which is super cute. But I don't really want to. I just want it to, like, I don't know. I haven't quite figured out where it'll go yet. Maybe in the nursery, maybe like on, not in the crib, obviously, but like near the crib. I don't know. I'll find a place for it. I just really wanted to make it so that baby girl had a little hot air balloon. So yeah, I'm working on Aften's Luftballon in leftover yarn, and it's a fun, I mean, honestly, the thing that took me, or is taking me probably a long time with this, is that it was like you have to knit the panels separately and then seam them together, and I am not a fan of seaming, so it took me quite a while to kind of work up the nerve to seam everything together. And then before I seam up the last bits, I want to block it so it gets just a little bit more flexible, kind of, because especially these heavy merino panels, this is knit on 3mm needles, so in hindsight heavy merino might have been a bit too thick, but it's what I had in my stash, and I liked the color, and I figured it's not a wearable, so it's okay if the gauge is a little bit off, so we went with that, and yeah, hopefully it'll loosen up. I think when I knit, I used the same heavy merino in Lily Kate Makes the One That I Want crop, and it did loosen up a bit after I blocked it. So I'm hoping the same principle applies here, because it's also the same stitch. That top is knit in garter stitch, and this mobile is also knit in garter stitch. And I have some, I don't want to use my Letluppy yarn. I have some Letluppy in like a kind of tannish brown shade that I could use for the bucket, but I'm also like, it's Letluppy, like it's really rough to the touch. It's not like she's going to be batting it around all the time. She's not going to be like playing with it like a stuffy, but at the same time, I don't want her to touch it and for her to kind of feel like, oh, this is way too rough for me. So I do have other brown yarns in my stash, and I might like look at one of those and see if there's anything that fits better maybe for the hot air balloon basket and the little rope bow things that go around. So yeah, it's just a cute little, it's a fun tiny side project that I'm working on. The Aftensluftballon number 1. But yeah, I'm excited to see how this turns out, and we'll find a place to put it in the house for when it's done. Okay. And I'm also working on, and this yarn has escaped. I'm working on this sweater at the moment that is still nameless. This is my design for Hobby's Natural Beauty campaign. So they commissioned a design from me. I sent them a proposal a while back. They sent me the yarn. This is Hobby Tweed Delight in the colorway 01. It's just like, it's this white yarn with some gray and black tweedy bits speckled in. And it's this, it's kind of like my Liscanor sweater, where it has a bunch of different textures in the same sweater, except these are cables instead of knit and purl stitches, because the target audience for Natural Beauty is slightly older knitters who have quite a bit of knitting experience, so I'm designing for them. And I actually am in the process of making a whole design progress vlog where I go through from like unboxing the yarn all the way to casting this off. I have bits on pattern math in there. I take you through kind of everything in my design process. I just thought it was a fun, like, it's a video diary of the whole process, but it's also just, I don't know, it's just, I mean, when I was new to designing, it was very intimidating for me. I didn't know what really went into making a knitting pattern. And so I think for anyone out there who maybe might be interested in dipping their toes into the world of design, it's nice to have one of those little, like, start to finish, everything involved type videos. So I just figured I would make one for this, and I think I'll do it for my other designs too, because it's been a really fun, like, way to kind of keep myself in check about where I am progress-wise and what I'm doing, but also just a fun way to track my progress and remember to try on my garments at all these different steps and everything, and just think about what I'm doing and why, so be a little bit more, what is that word? Intentional with my knitting. So yeah, we are currently procrastinating an Italian bind off here is where I'm at. So I've done the 2 setup rows for the Italian bind off, and this is going to be a turtleneck, so it's just going to come and fold over itself basically. So yeah, that's where I am. I just really need to do an Italian bind off on the collar, and then I need to do some more pattern math for the sleeves. And then pick up and knit the sleeves. And honestly, I don't think I'll even do decreases for the sleeves because, like I note in the progress video or the pattern design process video, each of these kind of, I have gauge swatched for each separate cable motif because obviously they have different gauges. And I wanted the sweater to be the same measurement throughout, so then I have to adjust stitch counts for the different gauges. And each gauge, it kind of coincidentally, progressively gets tighter and tighter as it goes down. And that's actually quite a good thing for the sleeves, right? Because you want the sleeve to taper a bit as you work it. So I think I'm just not going to mess with the stitch count on the sleeves. Like, I'll just figure out what I want my stitch count to be for this pattern and then see what that stitch count would give me in the final, this kind of boa constrictor cable pattern. And then if that measurement seems good for what I want kind of at the bottom of my wrist, then I will just stick with it and knit the sleeve without any changes to the stitch count. So yeah, I'm hoping to have this done. We have a baby moon planned actually in May to a beach. Our last little beach vacation before baby gets here. So I want to finish that off before I leave for my beach vacation. Just, because I can't bring that project along. It's way too clunky for the beach. And it would just be nice to have it finished and ready to go for me to come back and start working on the pattern and call for testers. Okay, last work in progress. These are the Olive's ribbed trousers You're just so cute. So I'm knitting these in the 6 to 9 month size in Knitting for Olive's Cotton Merino. It's one of their pale blue colorways. I have it up on Ravelry, which is also one of my new yarn acquisitions that I don't really have to show you because I'm already working with it. So these are knit, they have like this folded rib band up here, and it's like they have these two little, where are they? Yeah, they make you make these two little slots for an I-cord tie, and then you're supposed to weave that in afterwards, like weave the little I-cord into the band using a safety pin. So I have just finished knitting the ribbing on the waist, and I'm doing the crotch increases right now, and very, very soon I will split for the legs. And I'm really excited to split for the legs because I feel like once you do that, it goes so fast. So yeah, I mean, baby things, again, they just knit up so quickly. And I've heard, so I've been talking to other knitters who've had kids, seeing what's good, what works for them. And I've heard that knitting or knitted leggings and trousers are particularly, functional, because they're so stretchy. And, you know, you can use them even if your baby gets a little bit bigger, if your baby's a little bit smaller. They're a lot more versatile, basically, for your kid. So I'm trying to incorporate that advice, and I'm excited for her to have her little knit trousers around the age when maybe she's crawling or she's starting to try and walk. It's so cool to think about like all the little milestones that she will be at when she's wearing all these knits. That's one of the most exciting things, I think, about knitting children's things, is like, oh, what will she be like when she finally fits into this? It's a mystery, and I can't wait to find out. Okay, new yarn, because I do have some new yarn to show you guys this time too. The first one is this really, really soft polyester yarn, actually, from Rito Hobby. It's called Crocus by Infinity Hearts. It's just this really, really fuzzy and obvious, I don't know if you can tell, but it's made for stuffed animals. At least it feels to me like it was made for stuffed animals. And what I want to do with this is I got a little bit influenced by Well Loved Knits, and she made this adorable little stuffed dog. I think it's called Harry the puppy, for her older son, and I really want to make one for baby girl, so I'm going to be making a Harry the puppy with this yarn. I have 2 skeins of it. It is super bulky yarn. It's made for use on 9mm needles, which is kind of like the yarn that she used, except the pattern uses 6mm needles. So it's like a super duper fluffy plush dog. And this yarn is so soft and so huggable. And so I think it'll just be the perfect yarn for, I don't know, it'll almost look like a little golden retriever maybe, with the color. And that's kind of what I was going for. So I'm so excited to knit this up for her. But I have a couple stuffy plans, but most of my baby knit ideas are clothing. So I think I'll try to alternate maybe between the two, because the thing about stuffies for me is I just run into such a motivation block when it comes to sewing anything together, which is why I've been procrastinating on the Luftballon. So I'll motivate myself. I'll be like, all right, you can get this much done on the stuffy, and then you can go back to knitting pants or whatever. So that's the plan going forward for baby clothes. I also have some yarn from Knitting for Olive that I picked up specifically for baby knits. So I have 2 skeins of this lovely merino in the shade Poppy Blue, it's just such a beautiful bright blue. That I'm really excited to use. I don't know what I'll use it on yet, but there are so many little baby projects that call for 2 skeins of merino, so I will use it for one of those. And I have 3 skeins of this claret red, which might be a little dress for her maybe, because there's 3 skeins of it. So yeah, I'm thinking I'll do something, I don't know, maybe a bit more fancy with these skeins of yarn. And I also could not resist picking up this really, really nice skein of Lang Merino. And it's this lovely variegated yarn. It's got green and pink and purple, kind of, it looks like. Slightly purple. Mostly green and pink. And I don't know what I'll make with this. It'll probably be like a hat, maybe, or a bonnet or something similar, something really tiny. This is 203 meters in a 50 gram skein. It's superwash extra fine merino, so I should definitely be able to get something small for baby out of it. Who knows? Maybe even a sweater if it's lace knit. I don't know. I will just look into what patterns are out there, because I'm still looking at baby patterns and trying to decide what to knit for baby. But yeah, that will be another baby knit. I don't use variegated yarn so much for myself, but I think for a baby it would be so precious and so adorable. And so yeah, that is the plan, to knit something in this. So that's all I had for you guys today. Yeah, quite a bit of baby things. At this point, it's mostly baby things and my designs, and that's kind of where I'm at with knitting. Maybe that'll change. I just haven't been knitting as much for myself. I've had all these patterns for adult women sweaters and cardigans and things in my queue. I just haven't picked them up, maybe because my body is changing. So I feel like maybe I don't want to knit myself something that I can't wear right now. And so I've been doing lots of knitting for Kevin, lots of knitting for baby, just, getting ready for that next phase of life. Picking up a lot of yarn. I feel better, honestly, about buying slightly more expensive yarn when I only have to buy 2 skeins of it. Because, it doesn't take that much to make a baby garment, versus for me, it's kind of like a sweater's quantity is this whole bunch of yarn. And I feel kind of bad splurging on that, but not so much on baby. So the nice thing about this, or one of the many nice things about this, is that it is motivating me to expand my horizons in terms of yarn shopping and to look at more brands and buy more different kinds of yarn. Especially because I'm very much a fan of silk mohairs and very fibery alpaca yarns and cashmere, things like that. But obviously when you're knitting for little ones, you have to think about whatever you're making for them can't shed too much because it gets in their airways, and that's really bad. So I'm exploring a lot more extra fine merinos and cotton merino, cottons, linens. So yeah, it's opened up this whole new world for me. And I don't know if you can hear that. That's a very big boat. Cruise ship thing that's honking? No. It's horn. It's blaring its horn in the harbor. But yeah, as I was saying, it's just opened up a whole new world of yarn for me. And I'm very, very excited about it. And I'm very excited to put her in all these knits one day. So yeah, I really hope that you liked this video. I would love to know what you're knitting. I don't know, any advice, any feedback you have for me, just leave it in the comments below. As always, feel free to go ahead and give me a like or subscribe if you liked watching. Helps me out a lot. And hit the little notification bell so you'll get notified when I publish my next video. And as always, if you want to come over and say hi elsewhere, I'm on Instagram and Ravelry as the Strikkechick, and you can also find me on my own website, strikkechick.com. Until next time, you guys, happy knitting. Bye.